Good afternoon. I'm not certain if we have everybody prepared. If we can get a thumbs up, please bear with us as this is one of our first efforts to try to host a press conference, or one of few efforts to try to host a press conference via Zoom. I wanted to inform you that we will, in order for to keep the order of the press conference and make sure that it is clear, that we will be accepting questions through the chat, and we will have Mr. Melvin Robinson, who will be moderating those questions. And so if you have questions, please take advantage of doing it in that way. If we see that it's challenging, then maybe we might amend on the fly, but we're going to try to do this so that we can keep some order to the questions. As you are aware, and as I indicated in our Monday morning press conference, that I was seeking the counsel of our city legal department in order to issue a curfew for the protection of our residents. I indicated that it would be an order for curfew that would seek to provide a curfew for those residents under the age of 18. As we know, as we've been dealing with the pandemic, many of the social structures that our young people depend on have rendered them vulnerable at this time. Those are the social structures that they normally thrive under, and we have not been able to extend those social structures to them. And we have far too often found many of our young people in unorganized capacities and at a higher risk than most residents. And so I believe that we have to do everything that we can to protect the health and safety of our residents, and in order to work in their welfare. The civil emergency was recognizing the conditions in which we believe provide for an extraordinary circumstance, and the curfew can only be issued after a civil emergency is extended. And so we do not believe that this is the panacea. We do not believe that this is the sole means by which, some of the more violent crimes that we have seen, some of the burglaries that we have seen may reduce. And we do not put all of crime at the foot of our young people, but we do think that this is part and parcel of a multifaceted approach in which we'd like to see an effort go forward that protects our young people and protects our residents at large. That is a synopsis as to why I decided to enter or to provide this executive order of curfew at this time. If there are any questions, we'll be prepared to receive them in just a moment. I have ordered this executive order is in place over the course of the next 5 days. However, as we review the efficacy of the order, we will consider the extension of the order if need be. If there are any questions, if those can be read off, I'm ready to entertain them at this time.
All right. Yes, sir. We have one from WJTV that asks, explain the time frame of the curfew, please, and how long it lasts.
Okay. So we talked about it taking place. We talked about it taking place over the next 5 days, and the curfew is from 10 p.m. until 5 a.m. The next morning. There are several exceptions. It is commencing on today, Thursday, February 4th, for a period of 5 days, as I mentioned. There are several exceptions. Some of those exceptions include, but not limited to, if a minor that is listed in this particular order is with a parent, a guardian that they have permission to be with, quite obviously. If they are in a working environment and they have written notification from their employer, then they are exempt, and there are a few other exemptions that are listed in the order and are outlined there.
All right. Justin Viceroy asks, how will this be enforced? What are the penalties?
The penalties are going to be in accord with the Mississippi Youth Court statutes under the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Act, Prevention Act. So the normal manner in which juvenile delinquency is adjudicated, and the proper authorities and court systems that deal with delinquency of minors will have jurisdiction over any violations. And we will be looking for the support of our law enforcement, as well as it has been indicated by some of the leadership over at the Hinds County Board of Supervisors that they're going to try to engage the Sheriff's Department as well. And so this is not in an effort to, one, criminalize our young people, nor is it in an effort to, put the issues of crime solely at their feet, but it is an effort to protect them. We are trying to protect our young people and also extend the protection of the health and welfare of our residents by and large.
CJ Lemaster asks, Mayor, you mentioned the civil emergency opening up the ability to impose a curfew. What other things does a civil emergency allow you as a city or JPD as a department do that it couldn't do before?
Well, a civil emergency was necessary in order to impose this, as you mentioned. There are other things that emergencies allow you to do. In some instances, the issuance of contracts that need to be done in an expeditious way. And I wouldn't necessarily know, precisely what type of contracts we may want to do in this type of instance. But it recognizes the severity of the circumstance by which a city is under, and it cuts the timeline or the normal bureaucracy that cities have to deal with in order to do bidding and a number of other things. And so we would have to envision how that applies in this particular emergency, but it was necessary for this particular action in order for us to impose a curfew. And that's what we felt was the critical thing that we needed to do at this hour.
All right. Donna Ladd from the Mississippi Free Press asked, we've had controversy over years of how young people violating past curfews are detained. Mm-hmm. What do police do with youth who violate it? Where do they take them?
Well, as I said, it would be applicable to the youth court and juvenile delinquency statutes, which means that would go to the juvenile court system if there is a circumstance in which they felt that they needed to actually detain someone. As you know, it is this administration's position that we treat everybody with dignity and respect, and so we certainly would be monitoring any circumstance in which someone was detained or mistreated in that process. The objective is not to arrest all of our children. The objective is to have a vehicle by which, or a tool by which we can have them in safe harbor so that we can protect them from harm's way. And also, this is also precipitated. One of the things that precipitated this is that we've noticed that many of the events of car burglaries, when we've located some of the actors, unfortunately, it has been an increase in the number of young people who are engaged in those activities. We have been taking our children out of school for their health and their safety, for the health and safety of the teachers and administrators at the school. But one of the byproducts of taking young people out of school or any of the other social activities that they are normally engaged in which they normally thrive, that it creates a disruption in their lives. It creates a disruption in the flow in which our entire community operates. And so we certainly don't want this to be imposed forever. We want to be able to restore those circumstances, those social conditions in which they thrive, and provide them even more. We want them more than just survive. We want them to be able to get ahead and prosper. And so this is an instant a condition which we felt we had to impose in this instance. But however, we want to review the efficacy of it. and extend if need be.
Okay. WJTV 12 asks, what results have you seen from previous curfews when the pandemic began? Do you expect it to work again with those causing trouble getting caught?
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, there is no magic pill or bean or however you want to refer to it. And so we know that there will be violators, more than likely. We know that there will be instances of violation of our criminal act, our criminal code. But the past curfews have permitted our Jackson Police Department to get a number of firearms off of the street. It has permitted them to, get a number or to derail a number of nefarious activities. Does it prevent any and all circumstances? Absolutely not. Like I said, this is not the magic solution to all of our problems, but we do think that it is part and parcel of a larger effort to keep us all safe. Any further questions? I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, we are. We're just getting it there. They're asking a bunch. We're just getting them together now. All right, we have one from, and I apologize for if I get this name incorrectly, Coyote. I've spoken to him before, but again, I apologize. Is there any specific event that happened in the last few weeks that would have been prevented if such a curfew had been in place?
There have been a number of instances, as I mentioned, where we've understood that there's been participation in certain burglaries, and it has been the report of the police department that there have been some younger actors involved, and we've seen an increase in their involvement in some of the nefarious activities. We've seen a number of young people killed. The events of last week, while it would not have been within the time frame of the curfew, we have witnessed the homicides of many of our youngest residents within recent months. And so, as I said, this is sincerely an effort for their protection. Once again, I think it is very important that we make clear that the social dynamics that have led to homicides and crime within our city is not exclusively a byproduct of our young people. We've seen a lot of domestic circumstances. We've seen interpersonal relationships gone wrong, and we've seen a number of things take place. But this is an effort recognizing some of our most precious resource, which is our children, and wanting to keep them safe and wanting to keep all of our residents safe. We've also looked at other cities and their execution of curfews, particularly of individuals of this age. And so that's the thinking behind this.
All right, and we have several questions about JPD and Chief Davis. In light of recent criticisms of the chief, do you still have confidence in Chief Davis's role as chief?
Absolutely. I answered that on Monday. I talked about the many things that Chief Davis has been engaged in. I talked about us not having a reductive analysis in terms of crime and putting it on the feet or looking for a scapegoat with one individual. When you see a circumstance where you have so many things taking place, you have the restriction of social events and social organized activities, such as the ones that I'm talking about in which young people thrive. When you have situations that create pressures that are increased of poverty and of mental health, when you have circumstances that are increased, such as the inability to have a functioning judicial system in which trials are taking place on a frequent basis, in which detention happens when necessary. You have the circumstance of the city of Jackson under a consent decree since 2016, which requires them to ROR individuals for shooting in the city. When you release individuals and you have done nothing in order to rectify the conflicts that they were in prior to detention, then they return to the same conflicts. Many of the homicides that we have seen have been individuals who have either died or become or the perpetrators have of those shootings have been individuals who have recently been detained by JPD, who are out on bond. So it's not an issue of the Jackson Police Department doing its job to detain individuals who commit crimes. It is the revolving door and the catch-release process that is not allowing the judicial process to play out in the way in which it normally does.
Okay, and what we're going to do, we're about to wind down. We're going to take another question about the executive order. WJTV asked again, what advice do you have for parents with how serious they should take this and look out for their kids?
Yeah. Well, I would hope, and I know that it is every parent's desire to protect their children. I would ask that they assist the city of Jackson in this regard. When we have young people who have in many communities been out at late hours, walking streets, and the conflicts that are taking place, then it's not conducive for their safety. It's not conducive for the challenges that they are facing and seeing on a day-to-day basis. And so I ask for their participation and support. We're not trying to do mass arrest of our young people. That is not what we're endeavoring to do. But we are trying to set the stage to protect them and to protect all of our residents.